Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. My name is Lynn Tyler Thompson, and it is awesome to be with you. I'm sure you've been watching as all of this footage is coming out regarding January 6th, what happened in the United States of America. So I am really excited. We have somebody who was there. We have somebody who's actually served time because of it, and he's here to talk to us about it. Y'all know that I love to start every single show with, let me just move. Things are not quite set up right on my, oh my goodness, look at, you guys can like see my cup, and the cup's green. Can you see that? Isn't that funny? Okay, having a little bit of fun. So I love to start the show by reading from my dad's Bible. He passed away a couple of years ago, and he was such an incredible man, a man of the word. He loved God's principles. And so he has underlined this Bible from stem to stern. It's old. It's kind of falling apart. I treasure it. I'll treasure it the rest of my life, and I hope that my kids will treasure it. But Psalms 106, I only read to you what he ever underlined, and I can pretty much find something on every page, you know. So it opened up to Psalms 106, verse 47. Save us, O Lord our God. Gather us from among the heathen, to give thanks unto your holy name and to triumph in thy praise. Amen. So God is a God of justice. He's a vindicator. And when David was crying out to be saved, it's because people were trying to kill him. Literally, they were actually trying to kill him. And with spears and swords, and he needed God to save his very life. Well, these days, with what's going on in the world, we're not far from those times, are we? So let me introduce you to an incredible man, and what an incredible story. We're going to get to the bottom, maybe some of the truths that the media hasn't allowed us to tell. Derek Evans, as a J6 prisoner and former state legislator, Derek is best positioned to speak on the J6 footage that has just been released. He was there on January 6th. He's a patriot. He peacefully protested Joe Biden's, are we allowed to say the stuff about the election? He was, yeah, he was there to kind of protest some things he thought were going on in the country regarding the election. Yeah, we'll just go with that. And he's been endorsed by General Mike Flynn, Mike Lindell, Kim Klacik, and Veterans for Trump. He's an incredible man who paid an incredible price. He had eyes right on the event that took place, and we're going to ask him some important questions today. So Derek, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us. We appreciate it so incredibly. How are you doing today? You're kind of watching some vindication happen before everyone's eyes.
I am, and thank you guys so much for having me on the show, and I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Derek, you were actually there. I wonder if we should start. So you're a former state legislator. Is that the title?
So I was a state rep in the state of West Virginia. So I was elected to the state house in West Virginia in 2020. I was the first Republican to win my district in over 98 years, and I won a landslide victory. But that joy was short-lived as I came home and turned on the TV and saw what, in my opinion, not your network's opinion, but in my opinion, was the presidential election being stolen from President Trump and the American people.
And so you were there. Should we start by showing, maybe just set it up? Like, what was it like? Did you have to travel a long ways from Virginia to get to Washington?
Yeah, I'm on the other end. I'm on the western side of West Virginia, right on the Kentucky and Ohio border. So it's about an 8-hour drive to get there. I rode a bus with a bunch of patriots from my local area, and we went there that day to peacefully and patriotically exercise our natural God-given rights of free speech.
Wow, exactly. Peacefully and patriotically. So this is your video. Let's have a listen.
Let's go! Hey, God bless you. Hey, God bless you, sir. We don't want nothing to nobody get hurt. All right, we still respect you, all right? Not personal against you. Freedom! 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 destruction of anything. No vandalizing property. No vandalizing. Hey, no vandalizing. No vandalizing. All right. No vandalizing.
Wow. So what a great message you were there to definitely peacefully go, and march and stand for what you thought. So by the time you got to that era, kind of paint the picture of how you got in there, because is this what you got sort of in trouble for? Because that seemed like a really good message. Why would you get, put in jail?
I was facing, not only did I go to prison for that, I was facing 24 years in prison for what you just saw in that video. So that's the corruption. That's how weaponized our government is right now against conservatives. As you heard, I did more, in my opinion, I did more to keep the crowd under control than the police officers did. I'm the one that's reminding everybody to be peaceful and nonviolent. And for the record, I didn't see any violence or destruction that day. I was never accused of any violence or destruction because I didn't partake in anything like that. I was on the east side of the building. It was a very peaceful, eventful day. I mean, we had a street preacher who came by, and church service broke out for a little bit, and people sang and worshiped, and there were veterans in wheelchairs. There were parents and families and baby strollers. I mean, it was a really just honestly the most patriotic day of my entire life. Flags and such everywhere. The moment there, those doors opened from the inside. We already knew that Congress had went into recess, if you will, and so the doors opened up. I walked through an open set of doors, and as you saw, went straight over to that police officer to thank him, and kind of really in that mindset. My mindset was, if I'm not allowed to be in here, he's going to tell me to leave. And that was kind of what I was kind of filling it out. In hindsight, I wish I would have just straight up asked, "Hey, am I allowed to be here?" But obviously, I was. And if
no one told you to leave,
I'd have left. Yeah, I would have left. And so for those actions, I was facing 24 years in prison.
Wow. So when you say that you kind of walked through open doors, so I've seen all kinds of different video. At times, I've seen, you must know that one where the guy's up against a door and he's like yelling because he's getting crushed, against a door. Where would that have been from where you walked in?
That was on the exact opposite side of the building. So all the footage that people have seen on the news or in the media or social media in terms of any sort of violence or people being combative with police or any of those things, the destruction, the breaking of windows, the people climbing on the side of the building and the walls, all of that, 100% of that happened on the west side of the building. For anyone who's never been there, it's a huge building. I actually mapped it out when I was still fighting my legal battle, fighting for my freedom. To get from where I was at to get to where those events took place was over a half a mile walk, actually a little bit longer than that day because you couldn't go through the grass. So it was over a half a mile walk to get there. So I had no clue that any of those things were happening. I actually had told them I wish I would have seen those things. I wish I would have been over there because I would not have participated in anything in terms of fighting with police officers or anything like that.
Okay, and you know what? This is the first time I've understood that you were somewhere like that. It didn't all happen right there in front. Yeah. So this is very interesting. So you didn't see anything. Now, why do you think the other side had such a problem and your side, was it relatively the peaceful side then?
Yeah, and so I want to make it clear, and that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Is the building is huge, and so every single person who was at a different area of that building had a different experience on that day, even different experience based on what time you may have arrived there or have been there on that side of the building. And so really the violence that people have seen on TV is really in just one concentrated area on the west side of the building, particularly in the tunnel area. That is where over, I would say 90% of all of that took place. And so if you were on the north side, the south side, the east side, even some parts of the west side, you never would have seen those actions taking place. And for the record, even that particular area, and it's going to be seen now that the footage is coming out. There's a lot of other good footage already. It's been released, but even the area where the violence took place, the crowd was peaceful until the police officers started shooting concussion grenades and tear gas into a peaceful crowd of women and children. And that is what really got the crowd riled up to begin with. I'm not making excuses for fighting police officers or anything like that, but it was definitely peaceful until the Metro Police started firing upon the crowd.
Okay, and I saw that. Is that the little hand grenades that a police officer, like, have you seen that footage? You know what I'm talking about? Where, yeah, do you? Oh, let me show you a clip that we got from Redacted of some of this footage, and then I'll get your comment. Go ahead.
What you see here is at 1:06 p.m. when these shots are first fired from Capitol Police. They're on the balcony, and they fire at...
I'm giving warnings about chemical munition. I need the less than lethal team position above me to start deploying.
And fire. Look at the lower left-hand part of your screen. Boom, hit in the face. Okay, boom, right there with a paintball, hit in the face. Pierces his cheek, okay? And just to recap again, so here we go. Fires right here. Fire, shots open, and fire into the crowd at 1:07 p.m. Boom, right into the face and onto the right side. Impact on both of those areas. People start saying, what are you doing? Like, we're peaceful.
Oh my God.
And there he is with a paintball into his face. And
I don't think that's an actual paintball. Those must be some special kind, because paintballs don't do that.
They're pepper balls, I believe, is usually what police fire.
So I'm not sure exactly what that munition was that pierced his cheek. I mean, so you can see this crowd is not rushing the barricades until they're hit. Until they're hit with all of these different flashbang grenades.
They're deploying flashbangs on us.
And they let them know that they're number one.
Into their own people. We're supposed to be supporting Blue Lives Matter. We represent Blue Lives, and this is what they do to us.
Stingball deployed! Stingball deployed! Stingball deployed!
Now you can see all the body cam footage here from the police, the Capitol Police. There's a lot of grenades being used, a lot of sting balls and rubber ball grenades being thrown. This guy loves throwing them. He's having a blast, just tossing them over there. He's got a big bag of them, like Santa Claus. Keep lobbing them.
23 up here. Here, 43 on the north side of I Street. Very large crowd coming down I Street. 51, I need you here, please.
You got more in there? Santa Claus? All right. Well, give me some more of those. Yeah, give me some more of those sting balls. It's amazing how you need those now that you fired on.
Never thrown the concussion grenades. If they'd never used a pepper spray, this wouldn't have happened. It was a peaceful protest. I was standing within 15 feet of the line of officers. They started firing at us before anybody did anything to them. We were not rushing them. There was no advance on them. They just started throwing concussion grenades and pepper spray.
Wow. So that we just saw, that was on the other side, would you
Correct.
say?
That was on the west side of the only thing I know about that area is just footage that I've seen. Like people such as yourself have seen the footage. I wasn't in that crowd or in that particular area, so I didn't know that took place during on that day. I didn't find out until afterwards. But there's so much evidence to prove that they just started, and even the guy right there who's throwing those grenades, like, he doesn't even know who he's throwing them at. He's just throwing them into a crowd of people. I mean, there's, like I said, there's children, there's women, there's elderly people, and he's just chucking them out into the crowd. That's what got that crowd riled up. That is the area where you end up seeing all the violence and stuff later. But you saw who instigated that and started firing on the crowd. That's what it looks like to me.
That's what it looks like to me. Is that if that hadn't all happened, I think that they felt like they were in some sort of like danger. People were being hurt. That looked like it could land on someone. I don't know how those things work, but that looks heavy. It could hit someone in the head and potentially kill someone.
Well, and the concussion grenades have been proven as well with that impact on there. It can cause heart attacks and such as well to people. And so the whole thing was just, it created chaos. And I think that, I don't know if that was their plan, but that's the biggest part of it, is it caused chaos amongst the crowd. Otherwise, the crowd was peaceful. They were singing, they were chanting, they were, just fellowshipping with each other. And then when that started, there was no more, it was just all mass chaos. It was very chaotic. And that's kind of when things started escalating and getting out of hand.
Okay, so back on your side, you with a whole bunch of people. Nobody was bashing doors in. Was there a police? Did you have to get past a police block or anything like that in order to access the Capitol?
So when I was on the east side of the building, they had those bicycle racks out there first, and there was, I mean, there's thousands of people back there. I was in the middle of the section, in like the middle of the building, and to our, let's see, I'm just trying to make sure, the north, so the northeast corner, um, there's only like 15 police officers back there for thousands of people. A group to the northeast corner just moved the barricades, the bicycle racks, and started walking in with their hands up and just walking peacefully towards the building. And at that point, people from the south started doing the same thing. And then those police officers kind of just let everybody come through at that point. And so then at that point, the police officers were at the top of the steps, and everybody was on the steps of the Capitol, but nobody was rushing and trying to get past there or anything like that. And so anyone who came after that time, there's a lot of people who did and who even went to prison. They never would have even seen the original bicycle racks. That what we didn't know, there were no signs on these bicycle racks or anything like that. But what we didn't know is the moment you crossed the line where the bicycle racks had previously been, even if you showed up an hour later, if you crossed that line where the bicycle racks had previously been, you supposedly, allegedly entered into a restricted area and broke the law at that point. We didn't know that. I didn't know that when I walked through that. I mean, I saw the bicycle racks earlier. Now there's hundreds of people in there. The police officers are back there. It doesn't seem like a big deal. So I walked on up towards the steps with everyone else. A little bit later, I'm assuming now, I didn't know this at the time, but I'm assuming now that those police officers went to the other side of the building to kind of help out over there. I don't know that for sure. I have a lot of my own questions. That's why I'm excited that the footage is getting released. We just want the truth out there. So then those police officers left that area on the east side of the building, and everyone went on up the steps and once again, nobody was breaking anything. I thought that was as far as we were going. I was completely content with not going any further. You know, I was just happy to be there and with my fellow Americans. And then when the doors started open, and I mean, yeah, I walked inside like everybody else, but nobody thought it was a big deal at the time when we walked in there. And even here's the thing, even if they want to say, okay, you trespassed, which I don't know how you can trespass on property that the taxpayers own, but if they wanted to say that,
Yeah.
that's fine. But typically you would get a ticket in the mail and pay like $50 fine or something. You know, you don't, the FBI doesn't come to your house with military tanks and flashbang innocent families and rip people away from their families and send them to prison over trespassing. That's what makes this whole thing so unique and so egregious.
It is my understanding that they never found any guns amongst the crowd. So, worst takeover ever of trying to usurp a government in a land that allows. I mean, what I heard was that there was no guns unless you have other information, but you were all basically there to stand up for your country.
Yeah, we're the most armed, citizens in the entire world, not just in America in general, but I mean the conservatives, the Republicans, the Trump supporters. You know, we have more guns and ammunition than most militaries. And to your point, I mean, we showed up there unarmed, which is obvious proof that we were there peacefully protesting. I tell everybody I showed up with a cell phone and an American flag and pride in my heart, and apparently that's what I'm guilty of. Apparently, the government thinks that I'm Jason Bourne and I'm capable of overthrowing a government with nothing but a cell phone and an American flag, I suppose.
Wow. Yeah. Good point. Jay, the shaman. Did you ever see the shaman who kind of walked in and he took his seat? I saw him also praying, and he spent a good portion of time in jail as well.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a true patriot. I did not see him that day, but definitely been following each other, you know, since he's got out of prison. He's a great guy. The media really messed up. They tried to paint him as this crazy extreme guy and made him, you know, one of the faces, if not the face of January 6th. And he gets out of prison and he's very well spoken. He's very articulate. He's very smart. And I think that right now they're regretting making him the face of all of this because it's currently backfiring on them.
Right. Did you celebrate when Tucker Carlson got a hold of video that basically exonerated the shaman, Jason?
Yeah.
Jacob?
So that was, it was really good. And so For those of us in the January 6th community, it was nothing new in terms of we'd already seen all that footage. But Tucker Carlson had such a huge platform. We were so excited that he shared his platform to get that footage out to the normal people out there, the average American, the average person across the world for that matter. And I'm so happy that he showcased Jake's story specifically, just because of the way the media had portrayed him up to that point. That is really when I think a lot of people across the country and across the world started opening their eyes and started for the first time saying, wait a second, something's not adding up here, because they had been made to believe that Jacob was this terrible, evil domestic terrorist. And then you see the footage of these guys walking him around. You start to see the other side of that.
Early on when this just happened, I don't know if I got the footage before it was taken down or whatever. I remember seeing him, I liked the guy right away because he said a prayer in there. He wasn't scary at all. And so when we found out that he was serving all this time, prayers went up for all of you that were facing charges, because it was very evident that whatever did transpire there, that there was a lot of really good people. And, we've had doctors that were incarcerated that have been on this show who were just there because everyone was sort of milling. And like you said, the officers didn't tell you to leave. And so they felt that they were well within their rights. Nobody was ordering them out. And, ended up having to do the same kind of time that you did as well. So with your story, how long were you in there?
Yeah, so that's what's crazy. I'm actually, as crazy as my story is, I'm fortunate compared to so many other people. So I had an 18-month legal battle. I was one of the very first people arrested. I was arrested 2 days after January 6th. I was arrested on January 8th. And part of that was because I was the highest ranking government official they could get their hands on. I was the only elected Republican at the time to be arrested for January 6th. And so I had an 18-month legal battle, which pretty much bankrupted my entire family. And then after that, I ended up getting sentenced to 3 months in federal prison. And I did 8 days of solitary confinement because I refused the COVID vaccine while they were holding me hostage.
Wow. Oh, so on top of it all, when everyone's fighting for freedom and fighting for truth, you don't want to take the COVID vaccine inside the prison. And that meant 8 days of solitary. And what does a brain go through when you're 8 days in solitary confinement?
Solitary confinement is something that's really, honestly, hard to even put into words. Humans are naturally, we're social creatures, and it's difficult to explain. But your mind is so powerful. In a weird way, I'm thankful for that experience. It's the closest I've ever been to God. And I remember, I've always been raised and taught to try to find the good in any situation. And so I quickly, the first 12 hours or so is just kind of shock. You're just kind of taking it all in and decompressing everything. But then I started looking around. I was like, what are some positives here? And I realized I was on the third floor of the building, and out my little cell area, I could see basically a window across this little walkway. It's covered in a cage and bars and wire and everything. But I could see out this window, and I could see a fire hydrant, and I could see a tree. And by the grace of God, I was facing west. And so I would watch the shadows of the tree and the fire hydrant. When I got to a very distinct spot, I would ask the guard what time it was. And most of the guards would tell you. Some of them wouldn't, but most of the guards would tell you. And so by around the end of day 2, the beginning of, halfway through day 3, I could tell what time it was roughly by looking outside at the shadows. And getting the concept of time again was a huge victory for myself, because before that, you could lay down and take a nap. You didn't know if you napped 20 minutes, 2 hours. You didn't know. And that lack of concept of time was very difficult. And I just got through every day by just telling myself that I'm getting out tomorrow. You're getting out of here tomorrow. It's just push through for one more day. It's not a big deal. Finally, on day 5, I got a book. That made things a little bit better, to have something to read and to occupy a little bit. But, back to how powerful the mind really is, I started remembering excellent memories for the record, but I started remembering childhood memories that I either forgot about or just never remembered before, such as, I can now, because of that, I remember, 2 to 3 years old, hoeing potatoes in the garden with my grandparents. And, it's just little things like that. So once again, I'm thankful for the experience. It's made me a better person. to be a better husband and a better father. I've got 4 kids, and I remember sitting in there thinking I wouldn't care what we were doing. I wouldn't care if they were fussy. I wouldn't care if they were whiny. I wouldn't care about any of those things. I just want to be with my kids. And so now I might be tired. I might be busy. I might be doing something. My little girls come over and say, "Hey, will you color with me?" Look, I might only color for 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how busy I am, but I'm going to color for a few seconds. My little boys can come over to me and they say, "Hey, let's play cars. Let's play monster trucks. Let's play in the dirt or something." I'm going to make time for it. They can be fussy. They can be whiny. And I remind myself, you know what, dude, you could be in solitary confinement missing out on this right now. So be thankful that you're here with your kids. And so I cherish every single moment, the little things, seeing the stars, seeing the sun, feeling grass, feeling the wind, hearing the birds chirp. You don't get any of that in solitary confinement.
Wow. What an experience to actually change your perspective for the rest of your life. As hard as it was, it kind of taught you something that many of us will probably never spend time in solitary that way. That's actually a real gift to you. Do you think that it's kind of propelled you to think differently or understand what we're up against in North America with trying to hide the truth on these matters? This is very grave and very scary.
When I had a chance to sit in there and decompress a little bit, you got to remember up to that point, I was still fighting for my freedom. And then I'm preparing for prison and trying to get things done around my house to make it easier on my wife and my children. And so when I was in there, it was really the first time I really had a chance to fully take it all in, I guess, and decompress and really start. And yes, sitting in there, I guess it's when it really truly hit home just how powerful this globalist elite people are that's trying to take over our world. The fact that I was sitting in prison because my government basically had it out for me made it a little bit harder to swallow, if you will. And I'm sitting in there knowing the truth and knowing that the American people in the world don't know the truth. And it was really difficult to kind of, I guess, piece that together as to, how do I make these people aware of what's really happening right now? Honestly, there were days sitting in there, I never in my wildest dreams imagined that we would be having this conversation today where people were actually getting to see the truth and understand what really took place.
Wow. You said that you were arrested just days after this happened. Did you think you were getting arrested?
Yes and no. So once again, I didn't think that I'd done anything wrong, but so my face was all over every national, even worldwide news network you could think of. I mean, BBC from Britain, those liberal bums, they came over here to my house all the way from Britain and wanted an interview. I mean, so my face was everywhere because I was the person that they used to paint the narrative and say, look, these were elected Republicans who attacked our Capitol, if you will. And so my concern was that they were going to think I was a part. At this point, I started seeing the violence, the videos of people destroying property and battling with police officers and such. And so my concern was that they thought they were going to think I was in that crowd, if you will. And so we reached out to the I got an attorney, a local friend here who's an attorney, reached out to me and said, "Hey, let's just go ahead. You're fine, but let's just go ahead and do this just now, just to be safe." And I'll reach out to him. And so I did that on the morning of January 7th, and because I was all over the media that night. And so on January 7th, he reaches out to them and says, "Hey, I'm representing this guy. His face is everywhere. He hasn't done anything, but if you want to speak with him, he's got children, like young kids. Just give us a call. He'd be more than happy to come down." I mean, I have billboards everywhere at this point because I'm just coming out of a campaign. And so partly no, because I didn't do anything that I felt deserved to be arrested, but I knew there was a lot of media pressure surrounding it. So I thought they was going to at least want to question me. But I didn't really think that they were going to the FBI was just going to come to my house and, storm my house with 15 agents and rip me away from my family the way they did.
Is that what happened? Is that how it went down?
Yep.
Describe that for me. So what time of day was that?
Yeah, so it was a Friday, January 8th, and the media had just showed up. They had been gone most of the day on January 8th, and the media showed up, and I thought that was a little weird. And so the media shows up, and about 15 minutes later, I see the feds rolling up my driveway. I was home alone with my children. I have 4 kids at the time. My oldest was 5 years old, and I was home alone with my children. They just watched my wife leave. They told me that later. They'd staked out my home. They watched my wife leave. They knew I was home alone with my kids. and when I saw them coming up the driveway, I grabbed a tablet, took my kids to the bedroom and said, here, play on your tablet. Daddy's going to talk to his friends. My concern was protecting their physical safety as well as their emotional, mental health and safety from what was about to happen. I knew they weren't rolling up with that many cars just to have a conversation, and so I knew they were going to arrest me. And that was the hardest moment, probably, was after they cuffed me and I'm in the back of their SUV. My neighbors are there with my children. My grandmother finally showed up there as well. They live a couple miles down the road. And I remember my little girl, my oldest, looking out the window crying, wanting to know, who are these guys and what are they doing with my dad, type of thing. And I'm in the back of this SUV just handcuffed and just sitting there, and you just feel this small right now, just knowing that your little girl is sitting there hurting and scared, and there's nothing you can do to comfort her and make her feel better. And so that was one of the hardest moments, probably the hardest moment of that day.
Wow. So where did they take you then, and how long did they initially keep you before, I guess, you faced a court trial, right?
Yeah, so I went to the local federal building here in West Virginia. They went down, and so my story's even more unique than most January 6ers just because I was arrested so early and so quickly. Like, they didn't even know what they wanted to charge me with. They just knew they had to arrest me, honestly. And so typically they will find a crime, and then they will investigate, and then they'll arrest somebody and then go from there. But in January 6 cases, especially early on, they're like, oh, this is a high profile person, let's arrest him, we'll figure it out later. That's literally what they did. So I was originally charged with 2 misdemeanors. So they raided my home and did all that over 2 simple little misdemeanors. Then they came back a month or so later and added 2 more misdemeanors. Then they offered me a verbal plea deal of choose your misdemeanor, we'll drop all the other charges. Then they removed that plea offer and revoked it, and then hit me with a 1512 obstruction with official proceeding, which is a 20-year felony. And so now I'm facing 24 years in prison, and that's something they're doing to a lot of the J6ers is the peaceful ones especially. If they want to stick it to you in some way, they're taking this 1512 charge of obstruction of official proceeding. They've recommended it for President Trump as well, and throw it at you and hold that over your head and try to use that as leverage against you.
Wow. And so what did you decide? So you had to go through many months. What did that feel like? Like, were you scared? Did you think, what has happened to my country? Did you grieve the sadness of the injustice of what was happening to you and many others?
Well, it was really a roller coaster of emotions, to be honest with you. When I found out I was just being charged with these 2 misdemeanors, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I can't believe that they did this. And then they added 2 more misdemeanors. I'm still like kind of shocked. I'm like, well, they're going to investigate this. They're going to realize that I didn't partake in any violence or anything. This is all going to go away. It's not a big deal. And it really wasn't until I got the phone call that they were hitting me with a 20-year felony when the things really got serious. I remember I was in my living room. My attorney gives me a call and says, hey, where are you at? I told him I was at the house. And so he tells me, I'm getting hit with that felony. And I remember I didn't tell my wife. She's playing with the kids in the living room, and I was kind of in the kitchen looking at them. And I went to the bathroom. I turned on the fan so that nobody could hear me. And I remember I just started crying. I just broke down in that moment because what I was thinking was, I'm not even going to be out in time to walk my little girls down the aisle and give them away. I'm going to miss out on my children's entire life. And that is the most devastating thing you can think of. In a lot of ways, that's more cruel than just dying, to be honest with you. I mean, that's really where I was at in terms of the standpoint of a father is, I think it's more cruel to be alive and to be held somewhere knowing your kids are out here being, growing up and you're not there and you can't be there for them. And so that's where I was at mentally. It was absolutely devastating. And then, as I'm in prison, and at this point, more evidence is coming out and everything. I think that's when I started really, okay, I got to do 3 months in prison and we'll get through this. And when I got out, I started reaching out to elected officials and nobody wanted to help us. And that's when I really started turning to more of the righteous anger, if you will, like, upset, like, why does no one care? Why does no one do anything? We've had January 6ers who've committed suicide. Matthew Perna, I remember that was a turning point for me when Matthew Perna, I saw in the news that he had committed suicide. I think that was a moment where I was starting to get upset. It's like, why is no one helping us? This pressure is unreal, and we have people committing suicide, and nobody cares. And it was a roller coaster to say the least throughout that 18 months.
Absolutely horrendous what you've been through. We want to show another video from Redacted showing the Capitol Police opening. Oh no, that we already showed that one. No, we want to show the one about Nancy Pelosi possibly staging a phone call. Like, this is just a thought, but take a look and give me your feedback on this.
Coincidentally, Nancy Pelosi and her daughter's production company had cameras ready to go and roll on the moment that something happened that day. I mean, that's amazing, right? Have a full production crew ready to go just in case. And new video emerged this weekend showing how staged the whole thing actually was. Watch an alleged phone call with Mike Pence. You can hear Mike Pence on the phone, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Now, we've never seen this video before until now with this newly released footage. See if you can spot some differences between the video that was released on CNN that we've already seen. It was part of the January Select Committee. It was released on HBO and also on CNN. See the difference between the video that was released on CNN of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the real video that was just released. Because sometimes when you're filming a movie, you have to have multiple takes in order to get the shot just right. How many takes did they have? We only know of 2. Here are 2 examples.
And I'm at the Capitol building. I'm literally standing with the chief of police of the U.S. Capitol Police. They believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour. Standing with the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police. He just informed me that they believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour.
Okay, did you guys notice a difference there? Did you guys notice any differences? Philip, David, anybody in the chat room? Did you guys spot the difference?
I just noticed a jump cut, but I didn't really spot.
Oh, Philip, say it.
The third person.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Philip, okay. The eagle-eyed observer, okay. Philip, as always.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like one of those things is not like the other.
They filmed it twice.
Okay.
It's 2 different shots.
With the same phone call?
With the same phony phone call. Like Howard Stern doing a prank. But in this, can we rerun it? Because in this second version of the shot, guess who pops in there? Chuck Grassley. A totally different congressman pops in. I guess they didn't catch this in their edits. Unbelievable how this whole thing is staged. Look at this. So there's Chuck Schumer on the right, Nancy Pelosi in her mask.
They believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour. Standing with the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police. He just informed me that they believe that the House and the Senate.
Oh, look, she's really acting it up. Given that she's heard this twice, she's like, "Wow, oh my gosh, that's shocking information." She shivered.
Nancy, we have to do the shot again, Nancy. But we really need you to be like, "Oh my God, we need you to act up a little bit more this time." Can you fucking believe this?
You said F.
I mean, really?
Like you said the F word. What do you think of that? How much acting has gone into what they've tried to pull off?
Well, the whole thing has been an act. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And there's so many different things you can point to, such as that video specifically. But the whole January 6th sham committee, the whole thing was an acting job. They literally hired Hollywood producers to come in, and they took the audio and raised the volume of audio in certain aspects and added special effects to the sound of the CCT footage and everything to give it a different aspect and everything. So, I mean, the whole thing, what everybody knows, or at least knew about January 6th, is 100% fabricated by the left and the Hollywood producers who helped them paint this false narrative surrounding January 6th.
So one question that I had when you were talking about when you were arrested is you said that it was odd that the media showed up. So do you think that they were tipping off media to be there to get these arrests, you and others, so that it just puts out the fear of God amongst people, like fearful? So, terrifying everybody.
100%. They definitely, without a doubt, there's no doubt in my mind, they tipped off the media that the arrest was happening, and they showed up there to make sure that they got their footage of that. And you got to remember too. I mean, luckily, I was one of the first people arrested, because after that, months later, they started really ramping it up. They basically declared January 6th a terrorist attack, and so everybody who they're arresting now is treated as terrorists. And so moving forward, they've literally rolled through communities with military tanks, helicopters, drones, busting down doors, flashbanging families, pointing automatic rifles at them, all to grab a 70-year-old grandma on misdemeanor trespassing charges. And so this is how they're treating people right now. And it's all, we've had some FBI whistleblowers who've left the FBI over this and has started speaking out on it. And it's all because when they do that, they get extra money for meeting their quota, if you will, of arresting domestic terrorists. So they had incentive, money-wise. They always got to follow the money. They had incentive to label everyone surrounding January 6th as a domestic terrorist.
The gentleman, Ray Epps, that's still, questionable. We've seen video of him saying, well, tomorrow we're going to go into the Capitol. And then he's there, we need to go into the Capitol. Have you any thoughts on this fellow and why he hasn't gotten the same treatment you all have?
Well, it's my opinion, and I want to specify that, but it's my opinion that Ray Epps is a Fed until proven otherwise. I mean, when you go look at January 6th, most of us, and you look at our charging documents and everything, they are punishing us or coming after us over things that we said on or before January 6th. It wasn't really that our actions, if you go look at my charging documents, you're not going to find a whole lot about the things that I actually did that day. It's all leading up to that. How dare I share a meme that says #StopTheSteal, or how dare I share a post on social media that says Trump won, or when I'm there and I chanted freedom in the video that you played at the very beginning. We chanted USA, we chanted we want Trump. Chanting we want Trump is apparently a criminal offense in this country now. And so I say all that to say, so many of people like myself have been punished over the words that we said or the things we posted on social media leading up to or on January 6th. But here you have a guy who has been very, very well documented saying way worse things than myself or so many others. And he didn't really get arrested or anything until recently, and he's getting a slap on the wrist, to say the least, compared to so many others. So there's definitely something fishy going on there surrounding Ray Epps.
Derek, what can you tell us about some of the video we saw where people are smashing windows and they clearly, they're wrecking property for bare minimum and they're trying to get in. And I remember seeing another guy on a video and he's saying to the police, stop them. Like, why aren't you stopping them? Was there definitely people that didn't have the same heart or demeanor or patriotic intentions as you? And were they caught for what they did?
Yeah, so you got to remember, there's a million people there. There's always going to be some people who have different values and different beliefs. I think we have to take that for, and be honest about that. I'm not claiming that any of those people were federal agents or anything. We do know that there were, without a doubt, there were federal agents and paid provocateurs in the crowd. I'm not saying those specific people were, because we don't know. That's why I'm excited for the footage to get out to the American people and out to the public so we can actually get the truth surrounding that. But I think we have to accept the reality that there were some good people who did bad things that day. There were some good people who did stupid things that day. There were some bad people who did bad things that day. There were a lot, but by and large, it was good people who did next to nothing that day, and they're being all lumped in together. That's the issue. But yeah, I don't think anyone is ever going to condone, destroying property and fighting with police officers, but they should be charged and treated accordingly based on what they did. No, I'm not going to defend someone, their actions, I should say. I'm not going to defend the actions of breaking a window. That's not good. But someone breaking a window, they should not be, I don't think that's warranting of the FBI to roll into their house and SWAT them, and they should be facing decades in prison over this and have their entire life destroyed. It was a dumb thing to do, but I think that the punishment should fit the crime.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also, the excitement of the moment and maybe hearing bombs, these little, things that the police were hurling into the crowd, hearing all of that, it would amp up the adrenaline in some of these guys. But also, I've seen evidence that perhaps Antifa had been brought in as well to just simply be provocateurs to the entire event.
Yeah, there's definitely rumors of that. And I also know that the whole thing's just so fishy. Once again, why were they suppressing the tapes for so long? Why are they suppressing the footage? They don't want the truth out there. And then why are they hitting some January 6th prisoners with gag orders? So some of the plea deals, people are getting hit with gag orders. I know of a couple people who for 5 years, they can't mention anything surrounding January 6th. So I just think there's a lot of fishy stuff going on here. I just want the truth. And I tell everyone, look, you got a group of quote unquote criminals, such as myself, who are begging and saying, please release the footage of our crimes for the world to see. And on the other hand, you have the government who's saying, no, you're not allowed to watch it. You just have to trust us. These people are terrible. And so I think there's a lot to be said there. And we just want the truth. Whatever the truth is, I can accept that. But this has been obviously a life-changing event for myself and so many others across the country. And we just want the truth to get out there, and we can go from there. And this is what I tell people, especially those on the left who, or even some moderates or whatever. Look, you can disagree. I believe that the election was stolen. Obviously, I went to protest. It's okay if you don't believe that. You can even think that I'm dumb and stupid and silly for going and protesting. You can think that I'm dumb and stupid and all these things for walking through an open set of doors and everything I did on that video. That's okay. I'm not even going to argue any of those things. But we should at least agree that I deserve due process and I should be treated accordingly based on the quote unquote actions or the crimes, the actions that I committed that day. And so I think if anyone who watches the video of what I did that day and they were looking at it from an objective point of view, and then you tell them, hey, the FBI raided my home, traumatized my children, ripped me away, bankrupted my family, put us through emotional turmoil. I was facing 24 years. I went to prison for 3 months, had 8 days in solitary confinement. I think you would say that is extreme. And I think that's where I want to start the conversation. I don't care about the other stuff in that sense in terms of having that conversation with people. I'm willing to move 99% of the way over, to start that conversation with someone and say, can you at least agree that if what I'm saying is true, that I shouldn't be treated that way? Can we start there? And I think that's a fair place to start.
Can I ask you about the demeanor of the judge when you're actually in court? Did you think this guy was sympathetic at all? Or I don't know if you had a male or female judge, but what you just said crystallizes it. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not just, it's not fair, it's ridiculous. How does a judge end up, sort of putting you in jail for 3 months, even when you didn't know you weren't supposed to be there? No police officer told you not to be there. And you're saying, okay, don't damage anything, no vandalism. What were you actually charged for? Just walking in?
Obstruction of official proceeding was the big one. And it doesn't even fit January 6th. So to break this down a little bit, the 1512 obstruction of official proceeding, that's what they used against me. It's the 20-year felony. That's what they use against most of the peaceful January 6th prisoners that they really want to stick it to them for one reason or another. So this crime was, the code was written during the early 2000s, the insider bank trading with Enron and all of that. What was happening is people were coming in to testify into Congress about the insider bank trading. And what was happening is people were tampering with those witnesses. So they were bribing them, they were threatening them, they were, maybe they're forcing them to be late and miss their flight or something so they couldn't testify, all these different things. And so the 1512 obstruction of official proceeding, it's literally, the title of this is tampering with a witness. And so it's really obstructing an official proceeding by way of tampering with a witness. And it's important to understand that, because no one on January 6th tampered with a witness. There were no witnesses testifying before Congress that day. So, but they've taken this charge, they've thrown it against the January 6th political prisoners unconstitutionally and unjustly, because they're getting away with it, quite frankly. And that is what they're using to really hold it again over the heads of everyone. Now, right now, the courts are split. We've had a lower level court who said this is unconstitutional, it doesn't fit. So, and we've had another lower court that says the government can do whatever they want. Basically, we're hoping that the Supreme Court will pick up and hear this case and give a proper ruling on that. It will not help someone such as myself, but they're still arresting people every single day. People are still being arrested for January 6th today. And so I'm still fighting for them. I don't want them to have to go through what I went through.
Wow, absolutely shocking. I didn't realize that they're still doing that. Now, when you saw this story, New York Rep Jamal Bowman pulls fire alarm in House office building, but says it was an accident. I mean, what do you make of this kind of thing? It's sort of one set of rules for you guys, right? And another set of rules for others. I mean, quite shocking that you would pull a fire alarm thinking it's a door or whatever, you know, and he disrupted the vote that was going on. Yeah,
he did. And so look, you can go to any elementary school in America, and if a kid pulls a 7-year-old kid pulls a fire alarm and says they did it on accident, no one would believe them. So do you really believe a member of Congress accidentally pulled a fire alarm? And then the tape comes out later and it shows them removing the signs and all those things. And to your point, yeah, they were in session and he knowingly pulled that fire alarm for the sole purpose of disrupting that official proceeding. And so in my opinion, for the record, I do not believe that the 1512 obstruction of official proceeding 20-year felony should apply to Congressman Bowman. I don't believe that it does, if I'm being objective. But if the courts are going to say that it applies to me and all the J6ers, then it definitely applies to that guy. What he did was way more obstructing of an official proceeding than we did. Now, I don't think it fits for any of us, but if it applies to me, then it definitely applies to him. And so the court needs to, the courts themselves need to step up, and the DOJ and be, transparent and be held accountable on this.
Right. Let me ask you a final question. Looking forward, do you think that Donald Trump, if he should be so blessed as to get in again, will he be able to pardon a good majority of those that at least were just like yourself?
Absolutely. President Trump could issue pardons if he chooses to do so. I believe and trust President Trump 100%. I believe that President Trump will take the time and go through and appoint a team or something, I'm sure, and they will handle each case, on its own merits. And I believe that the people who are deserving of a pardon will receive one from President Trump. And I trust him 100% to make those decisions.
And is your wife okay? She's been through a lot.
Thank you for even asking that. That's something that's got lost throughout this whole thing, is that now that we're able to speak out, people are hearing a little bit more. But early on, you got to remember, none of us were even able to speak to the media. We're fighting a legal battle, and we know the media is our enemy, if you will, and so we can't speak out. And so for well over a year, we were nothing more than names in a headline. The people there was no humanizing us. There was no human aspect of it. And so the family members have went through, in some ways, more. And the reason I say that is, I mean, if you're married or have a family or a mother or whatever, like, if you ask someone, would you rather go through a hardship or watch the person you love go through a hardship knowing you can't help them? And I think everybody would rather be the person going through the hardship. And so it's very difficult on the families to watch the people that they love, being attacked this way, and not just the media, but, even in criminal charges and such. And so, yeah, my family's doing pretty good now. There's still a lot of emotional recovery. That's going to take some time to heal, honestly. I mean, the PTSD is real. Get a random pounding on your door you're not expecting, your heart drops, and you instantly think, oh my gosh, are they coming to get me again? And I'm sure she has those same thoughts. We discussed that, and it's not unique to us. Everybody in the January 6th community has those same thoughts, those same fears. And so, but yeah, thank you for asking about them. My children are finally at the point where they're not afraid of police officers. That took a lot of work on our part. I don't want them to be fearful of police officers, but their only really interaction with them was the day that they came and ripped me away. And so that's what they thought. And so it took some work to make them understand that, it's okay. And so, but thank you for asking that. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Well, the whole time that you've been talking, I've been thinking about what your wife, what your children would be going through. And it truly is just an American tragedy. But, God is God, and he is always able to take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it to good. And I just look at the strength that you have. God's given you a real insight into the problem of justice, the problem of, the right versus the left. Really, we're at a place where it's actually a crisis. And this next election, 2024, I think that Donald Trump's going to be able to run. There's prophetic words that he's supposed to get in. Kim Clement's prophecy that he would be in for 2 terms is not fulfilled, and he was a very accurate prophet. And it looks like that some things can turn around, but I can just see that God, in a way, he entrusted you with this. Like, this was not easy. This was hell to pay. And he entrusted you because your character was really beautiful. I mean, when you hear you walking in, you can see your video that you're not a troublemaker. You're doing the right thing. You're even an elective, official in the country. You're doing the right thing, but that God would actually entrust you with such a trial. I think it says a lot about you, and also that he's going to use this in the future. Who knows where you'll be? Who knows after what you've learned, how you'll be able to be a great effect on the United States of America and the world, because we face injustice here in Canada as well. We have in Canada, just so you know, you might not know this, we have 4 guys imprisoned from being arrested at the Coutts border during sort of that freedom, the truckers and the freedom fight that we had, and it has not been a just due process. And so in a small way, we are experiencing what has gone on there, but only in a small way. But it's not small to these guys who've been in jail almost 2 years. These are the amazing guys, Anthony, Jerry, Chris, and Chris. And we pray for them and we stand with them. I speak to them from jail. But the justice system, it looks like the elites that you spoke about are doing their work across the world. And so your strength is really inspiring. And I love how you're able to communicate so well about what happened to you, when you were in solitary confinement and all of that. I hope that your story gets bigger. Are you able to write a book or something like that?
Yeah, actually, I did write a book from prison. It's only up to the point of going to prison. It's on Amazon and such right now. It's called A Political Prisoner, The Untold Story of January 6th. And you can find that on there. And if you have time, I'd love to say something about the 4 patriots there in Canada. If you guys could bring them back up on there, I'd love to touch on something I think is really important. I get emotional thinking about it, but you guys have no idea. This is mainly, I know this is a Canadian audience. You guys need to write these men letters. And I'm telling you that from someone who was there. They don't know how much support they have on the outside, if that makes sense. They don't have that because they don't see it. And the only way they can see it and then you can hear it and feel it is when you take the time to write them letters. I remember sitting in prison, and I got letters from the American people, and it was a turning point for me. And I tell everyone, I broke my days down when I got out of solitary confinement and into general population. I broke my days down into 2 separate segments. The morning is when I had my phone call with my family, and after that, I would look forward to 4 p.m. because I knew at 4 p.m. it was going to be mail call, and was going to get letters from American patriots all across the country who were showing me support. That was my second wind every single day to get me through one of the hardest moments of my life. You guys can do that for these men right here. Write them a letter. You don't have to say anything special. You don't have to say anything at all. You can just let them know that you're praying for them, and that's it. It's something that small. Send them a postcard if Canadian prisons allow that. I don't know. I had people just send postcards. You guys have no idea how much of a difference you could make for these 4 men right here if you would just take the time, 30 seconds, to write them a letter. And that would mean the world to me.
Wow. Thank you very much. From somebody who knows that is so good. And I do hope that we'll all do that. Well, we've got people watching you online from across the world right now. This is a very hot topic. And so we got a good audience watching. So thank you for what you've done. Could you just spout off one more time the name of your book on Amazon?
Yeah, it's called Political Prisoner, The Untold Story of January 6th. You can find that on there. If you search political prisoner on Amazon, I should have brought one out here. I have one in the house. I could have showed you guys what it looked like. Actually, I have one right over there. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead. You know, it strikes me that that these guys, one of the horrible things that happens is that they've gone bankrupt, having to defend themselves, and the people in Canada are pretty much at the point you're talking about too. So, you know, they've remortgaged and double mortgaged their homes and everything they have to try to do this. So if there's any way we can help you purchasing your book or whatever, that God would restore to you the fortunes that the enemy has stolen.
Well, I wrote this from prison. Actually, it shares my story leading up to going to prison. So I don't include any of the prison stuff in there because I was in prison when I sorry, my lights are shining on it. But yeah, it's a short book. It's not super long, but it goes into the detail of leading up to January 6th. It goes into the events and things that my family went through as we were fighting for our freedom and just that side of things. And like I said, I'm not an author by any means, but I try to put, you know, I didn't want to waste my time in prison. I didn't want to let them just take 3 months of my life away from me. So I would sit down and start writing this. And I'll tell you, while I was in there, I also I took daily notes in prison. I'm going to have another one that's going to come out at some point of just what it was like being in solitary confinement and in prison and all that. I just haven't had time to do that yet, but I took daily notes while I was in there and mailed them home to myself, so I'd have them for the future. But yeah, I wrote this. It was just kind of a reflection of what our family went through during that time. So yeah, I would love to if you guys would do that and give it a review if you like the book or whatever, and we'd appreciate it.
You know, Derek, I have a great idea for you. It's super easy to write a book these days. So you would just get the script off of the interviews that you're probably doing with lots of people, including myself. And, you know, great questions. You had great answers to what actually happened to you in solitary confinement. Put it through Chat GPT or whatever. Let it listen, you know, get the script. I think there's people that do scripts for like $16 or something. They're online. They'll do a whole script for you, and then that'll just become your book in no time. Just sit down with somebody and you won't even have to think or try to, you know, and then you can just add little bits and pieces, but it'll do it all for you. Chat GPT is like a life changer, I'm finding for myself right now.
It really is. I'm not going to lie. And you're correct. I mean, I've shared basically so much information, you know, about just even prison itself. You know, it's fascinating to me that, so I travel around the country and I speak at different events and just share the truth about January 6th, weaponization of government, and just anything else for that matter. And I always open it up to the audience to ask questions afterwards. And I'll always get questions, you know, just about what it was like to be in prison, you know, and I think that people are fascinated by it just in general because I'm someone who I guess you wouldn't expect to go to prison for what I committed, you know. And so it's like what I think people can kind of see themselves, if you will, like just a normal person who ended up going to prison, and I think they're kind of fascinated by that. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting experience to say the least.
Absolutely fascinating. It's been great talking to you. We'd love to have you come to Canada. Would you come and do that sometime? Like, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but we do events, right?
I would love to if I'm allowed.
Yep. So, well, we've got your contact and we'll let you know when it's happening. And we'd just love to bring you up to share with the Canadian audience. We've definitely been following this, and there's probably no more famous story in the world than this. So thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for being willing to share, not just, you know, becoming reclusive, angry, bitter, because you could, but you've actually used this. This is going to change America. Your stories will change everything. And we do pray that God will bless America and bring justice, and in the form you know, getting Joe Biden. It's pretty hysterical to watch your president right now. He's just barely functioning. I mean, he should be in an old folks home enjoying a cup of coffee and tea in the afternoon, and yet, you know, he's pretending that he's able to actually do what a president needs to do to keep his country safe.
Absolutely.
Shocking.
It's elder abuse what they're doing to him.
It really is. Thank you so much, Derek.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. God bless you.
Yeah, have a great day. God bless your family. Thank you. Take care. Really, really enlightening, isn't it? I learned things today that I didn't know this whole time about everything that happened January 6th. So we just pray God's blessing on Derek. One more time, JT, political prisoner, the untold story of January 6th. You know, if you wanted to just help a guy out, like just buy his book. You know, if he sold 50,000 of those, maybe he'd, you know, be able to recoup. Imagine what they've been through. Having compassion on this family is just so important. So I wanted to tell you that we've got a few things to still show you. We've got some amazing video of what's going on in the world, but with the Chat GPT, it just kind of reminded me, like this morning, I had to head off to a bank to change signers on our account, on our business account and stuff like that. I have board members because we're a charity, and that's why when you donate, which we really appreciate, you get a tax receipt, and the end of the year is coming up. So keep that in mind. Thank you. You know, there's not that many shows where you can just sit here and get like real life stories presented in the way that we do. And we've been telling you the truth for 4 years where others haven't. But so I'm at the bank and I was telling the guy there that Chat GPT did the annual general meetings, basically. You know, you just, you know, talk to Chat GPT and you say, I need an annual general meeting, board of directors, meeting minutes, and, you know, opening with prayer, because that's what we do at our meetings. And, you know, we ask the Lord to help us, and then we go through different things. And so, you know, the signing directors was one of them, but it literally, once I just text it, you know, I text it into Chat GPT and I say, you know, I need meeting minutes. It just does it. It's just like, brrr, all of a sudden it's all there. So all of you who are doing things the hard way, so I use OpenAI. Is it OpenAI? Yeah, Chat GPT. And I've just got it now where I can just get to it really easy. But OpenAI, capital AI. And you can get like, you can have an account that you pay $20 so you get a little bit extra. I did that part because it also does graphics for you for different things that you're doing, which, you know, we do a lot of, you know, things online and all of that. So anyways, Chat GPT, life changer. Don't be thinking that you got to sit there in front of the computer and type it all yourself. No, you just look at Chat GPT. This is what a friend told me. Chat GPT is like your best friend who's the smartest person in the whole world, and you just get to sit there and ask it questions. So a lot of you send me info and I check it through Chat GPT. And of course, you know, you should always double check all your sources. So super fun. All right. Should we do the video on Jen Psaki's MSNBC, JT? Show Representative Dan Goldman has a thought about what should be done to prevent Donald Trump from running for president again. Take a look.
Also turn to Trump, of course, and just some of what the reporting has been around some of his conversations, also as we anticipate a year full of trials next year. I want to take a listen to part of a conversation that he had with ABC's Jonathan Karl about January 6th and get your thoughts on the other end.
You told them you were going to go up to the Capitol. Were you just...
I was going to, and the Secret Service said, you can't. And then by the time I would have, and then when I got back, I wanted to go back. I was thinking about going back during the problem to stop the problem, doing it myself. Secret Service didn't like that idea too much.
So what?
I could have done that, and you know what? I would have been very well received.
So there's been so much speculation, contemplation, discussion of what Trump wanted to do, what he knew or didn't know. I mean, do you think as a prosecutor, former prosecutor, this is something that could be useful in the case against Trump? How will it be used?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he says I would be well received because he knows that the people who were there are his supporters who he riled up and incited to invade and riot at the Capitol and try to disrupt the proper counting of the Electoral College votes. So every time he talks, he's putting himself into a bigger criminal hole. That's not his objective. His objective is purely political at this point. Politics don't work in a courtroom, as I think he's finding out, and the New York Attorney General federals case in New York, a civil case, and that's going to continue in his criminal trials. But his rhetoric is really getting dangerous, more and more dangerous. And we saw what happened on January 6th when he uses inflammatory rhetoric now, and his recent Truth Social post is incredibly scary for anyone that might be trying to work in government. And it is just unquestionable at this point that man cannot see public office again. He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
Oh, he has to be eliminated. Scary. Scary that somebody wants all of the corruption to be brought to an end, that he would expose the crazy left agendas that have been destroying North America. And I say North America so I can include Canada in there, because open borders policy, all of the different things that they have. I won't say too much more because we're still on platforms. Iranian activist and journalist Masih Alinejad has some good advice for Justin Trudeau. Take a look.
So why do you think the Canadian government is not doing more to stop these people from coming to Canada?
You know, this question should be asked in front of Prime Minister Trudeau. I want you to sit down and ask this question.
I'd actually love to give you his response, because we did ask him that.
You did.
And what his response was is that the government will continue to do everything necessary to hold the regime accountable. They say they've criminalized them, so they are not allowed to enter Canada, but they have not designated the IRGC as a terror entity, which some activists here say is necessary.
You know, these are cliche and empty words. And Prime Minister Trudeau, I want to use this camera and talk to you directly. Don't be scared of me and women like, you and critical journalists and Iranian Canadians in Canada. We love Canada. We love peace and security and democracy. We love Canada to be a shelter for, decent people. And you're putting the lives of Canadians in danger. So I want to meet you. That's all I can say, because otherwise he's going to come up with a lot of empty words saying that we stand with the people of Iran. No, please sit down and make decisions. How to protect human rights, how to protect democracy in Canada. That's very important. I was the one 4 years ago in Canadian Parliament. I warned Prime Minister Trudeau's government that put the Revolutionary Guards on the terrorist list. They didn't. What happened? The same Revolutionary Guards killed Iranian Canadians by shooting down the Ukrainian airplane. So that's why when we warn Prime Minister Trudeau, it means that we know the danger is coming. Now Revolutionary Guards are everywhere, sponsoring Hamas to kill civilians in Israel.
Good for her. There's a lady who seems to have a handle on the truth. I'm a little bit surprised at those who are in our country who came here because they love peace, and yet they're down in these protests. If you have watched the civilians of Canada protesting, saying very hateful things and warmongering and anti-Semitic remarks and in support of Hamas in our country. I appreciate a lady like her. See, people like that, we can all live together. We can be multicultural. We can have different colors of skin, and we can be together. But when one group begins to want the annihilation of another group for no other reason than that they exist, that's a problem. And that's what we're seeing. And I just recently read an article that was basically saying that because of what's being exposed, we don't want to shut down free speech. No, march all you want. Because every time we as normal people in Canada see these protests and we see that you're all calling for violence against Israel after what just happened on October 7th. And basically what's been happening since 2005 when they turned over the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians. Hamas took over in 2007, and it's been nonstop hell ever since. And if Palestinians support Hamas, as some polls show right before this all happened, that there's a lot of support for Hamas, well, you know, we don't know where to go with that. So when you're on the streets and you're showing us who you are, we're actually getting stronger and more fortified in our position that we need stronger laws and stronger protections. And everyone who speaks like this should potentially have to get put on terror lists, and anyone who's committed violent acts, and deportation. Deportation should become a big thing. A big thing. You want to march in, speak anti-Semitic remarks, start calling for the decimation of a people group? If you're not from here originally, you should be deported, because Canada is a peace-loving place. It's supposed to be. Alberta Premier... The what? Oh, the handwritten, yeah. Do you want me to do that? Okay, yes, go ahead. Photos from kibbutz. So this is still images. So this is a kibbutz Kir Allah after the attack. I see, when they showed up that day. So this was where people lived. You know what and worked and were, and some of the way that intel was gathered in order for them to make these kinds of attacks without the Israeli army being aware is because these areas were kind of trusted areas. They had Palestinians that would come in and work every day. And so some of these Palestinians were recognized, and they then used this intel and this freedom they had to come into these areas, and they use that in order to gain access. The other thing too is in seeing the video that has been found of all of these artillery stockades right in a room that is clearly meant for children, because it has big trees, you know, and big drawings all over the walls like for children. And this place, and it's being kept right beside schools, they basically use people as human shields. That's what Hamas has done. And so when they have taken over Shiva Hospital in the Gaza Strip, they have not destroyed it. They actually have airlifted out babies, preemie babies, to get to Egypt to be taken care of. They didn't blow the place up. And I admire and respect that Netanyahu has made ways for the Palestinians to get out of Gaza, even as Hamas was blocking them. Can you imagine? I don't understand any mind that could be supportive of these sick thugs and demonically inspired animal people, Hamas, that did this. But I do pray that one thing comes out of this, that the freedom for the Palestinian people to not be under the tyranny of Hamas will be taken care of. Because the moment that's taken care of, it's going to be peace in Israel. Because Israel is not looking to take more land. They've given up. They offered the Palestinians the West Bank, 97% what was offered to them, and the Gaza Strip as a way to have peace. No, they didn't want that. So I don't know what to say. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith rakes opposition NDP over the coals over its support of the carbon tax. Take a look.
Mr. Speaker, I think Albertans wish the member opposite would stand up for Albertans for a change rather than take marching orders from the federal NDP leader. The one thing that is driving the affordability affordability crisis, as we know, is the carbon tax, which they implemented, we tried to get rid of, and our federal leader won't let us do it. If they had just agreed to eliminate the carbon tax, it would reduce inflation 16%, which means we wouldn't have to see an increase in interest rates, which means people could afford to buy a house as well. Maybe she should stand up for Alberta.
Good stuff. Keep it up, Danielle Smith. Keep making good decisions and stand up for your province. I absolutely love it. Wish we had somebody standing up for British Columbia, but no, NDP, terrible. Ned Ryan, I guess, appearing on Laura Ingraham, talking about the WEF turning us into serfs. Take a look.
No, you have it correct. I mean, first of all, we have to accept the World Economic Forum is a fanatical political organization that uses fear and manipulation like COVID hysteria, like the hoax of global warming, to really facilitate people thinking that somehow they're the saviors, but really all you're doing is helping them accomplish their goal, which really is a global public-private fascist movement and fusion of big government, big tech, big money, to create a technocratic ruling elite, which conveniently is them. And really, Laura, if you want to look at it a different way, too, with the World Economic Forum, they want to create feudalism 2.0, in which we are serfs and they are the lords ruling over us. You'll have nothing and be happy is one of the things that comes out of Davos. That's what they're aiming for. They're aiming for feudalism in which we are serfs and we should be happy that they are ruling over us.
Not going to happen. Ron Paul is interviewed by Glenn Beck. Love Glenn Beck. I hope that you can catch some of the stuff that he's putting out lately. And he also talks about the WEF wanting to violate all of human nature.
The World Economic Forum, they are, truly frightening. This is a group of elites that, every conspiracy theory, every, Star Chamber movie it's almost like a parody of itself. They've got a guy with a German accent that leads it, a bald Bond villain. And they truly believe that they can take the world and violate all of human nature and make a new world. What are your thoughts on the World Economic Forum?
Well, it should be disappeared, intellectually speaking, because, yes, it is a powerful force, and they're using the same tools that I'm advocating for liberty. You take a guy like Soros and others before the World Economic Council came, that they got a hold of the educational system, and then they moved along from there. Our universities were there. And even with COVID, it looks like they've taken over completely the medical profession, which is really sad and
scary.
But at the same sense, a few people have awakened, and they know this, and more people know what's going on during the lockdown than they did before the lockdown. And they're looking like the American people are ready to resist that. They are the bad news, and the only thing I can think of is counteracted with the good news of what liberty is all about.
So we all know that the WEF's a real problem, but I think we just have to keep an eye on what our governments are doing and fight it at every single level. We're going to be talking about 15-minute cities and also this other thing, C40 cities, and that's on an interview coming up very, very soon. One more thing I want to share with you before I let you go, but basically Blacklock's reporting. They've done an article calling out Christmas colonial bias. Christmas is discriminatory, says a Canadian Human Rights Commission report. Observance of Jesus' birth is an obvious example of religious bias rooted in colonialism, wrote the commission. No one is free until we are all free. So I think there's the rest of it. Oh, okay. It goes into, and basically colonialism and religious intolerance, you know. You know, we've been fighting the whole Christmas thing. There's been Xmas. If any damage happened, I think with COVID, when we weren't allowed to gather with families, that was just such a hit, that we all took on that. And I just pray for the day when we are getting back to celebrating Christmas huge. Go big, everybody. Get all those Christmas lights onto your homes. Be the best home in the entire neighborhood, right? Go all out. Ask the Lord to provide a little bit of extra funds to get a nice big tree and get your Christmas stuff up early. And let's go big for Christmas this year. Let's like just hit it out of the park, because Christmas is one of those beautiful, beautiful times. I'll never forget, you know, growing up and that tender, calm sense that I had at Christmas time. It was such a special moment in our home with my mom and dad, and you know, when the kids were little, and how awesome it was. I mean, other than, do you remember when you know, there was this time where Aaron, our youngest, he took all the Christmas presents and he unwrapped them in a room in another part of the house, and we thought we'd been robbed. So we went in there and he's like, so all the presents just totally, like, he thought they were all for him, I guess. But anyways, he's all grown up, doesn't do stuff like that anymore. Hey, my website's lauralyn.tv. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for being with us. We really appreciate you. Thank you for supporting us. We're here just doing life together. You know, part of the fun of all of this, you know, like spending your day, getting your coffee, whatever you do. Maybe you're doing housework and you just put Laura Lynn live on the side. Well, you'll hear good stuff. We have amazing guests because of the fabulous Toby Carson. We've got amazing production and administration because of the lovely Dominique. We've got, you know, people working to make sure that our Twitter, you know, clips are awesome and that the show is stellar. And all of that, it does take a little bit of money. Although we do this, wouldn't you say, JT, in the cheapest, absolute cheapest possible way? You know, we barely make any money at this, but it's super good. And you know what? Because of your kindness, we survive. Because of your kindness, we just keep going. You know, when we have lean months, we go, okay, and we just trust the Lord. But because of your kindness, because you see value in this and you support us, it changes everything. And we appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts. So stay with us. Hey, in the next day or so, we're going to show you a little segment that we had with Steve Merrill. And he's the guy we always tell you to, you know, check him out, talk to him about your savings, about investing in gold and silver. And he's going to do the presentation that he did at the Era of Champions. And so if you're looking for what you should be doing with your funds, you'll want to stay tuned. We'll try to get him up in the next day or so. We need to like coordinate it into the show because it's not a very long presentation, right, JT? But if you wanted to get the gold and silver information up right now, that'd be super cool if you wanted to do that. Do you want to? All right, go ahead. Where's the Sun City Silver? Oh my God. Okay. Why don't I just do everything? Okay. Oh no, I love you. No big deal. You know, sometimes JT's busy because in the trolls, in all of the feed, he has to get rid of the people that are slagging at us. Yeah, one lady, so sweet, she wrote to me and she said, wow, I was reading all the comments because yesterday, if you missed yesterday's show with the amazing Dr. Nazarian, I think. So she was born in Iran and grew up as a Jew there. And so she had just incredible insider information. But somebody wrote me and said, wow, like I see the backlash that you get from some of the things that you know, some of the truths that you're telling. And this lady's experience and all of that, oh, people are just losing their ever-loving minds right now. All the anti-Semites just coming out strong. So I don't care. we just stand strong in the Lord. Psalms 96 says, sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord, praise his name, proclaim his salvation day after day. Does he have salvation for us? Does he have a day of being saved? Is there a moment ever again in Canada where we go, look what the Lord has done. He rescued us from those who were too powerful for us. He rescued us from those who wanted to take our very lives. That God rescued us from the elitist, from the cabal. We talk about them. Do we trust God to be in charge? When wickedness prevails and we do not see the hand of God moving for us, are we able to praise God? Do we sing to him? Do we proclaim his salvation day after day? Because sometimes it doesn't look like he's there. Sometimes you're like, God, don't you think you should have removed Trudeau by now? The guy's a menace. He's evil. There's all this corruption. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's a mess, Lord. Don't you think that you could just flick your baby finger and get rid of him? And God's like, well, not today. When is the day, though? When is the day when God decides to move and it is an unstoppable overthrowing of evil? Whether that's in our country or the United States of America, I look for that day. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. Is he marvelous? Oh, he is so marvelous. I can proclaim that for myself in my own life, that he has got me through the nastiest times. He has protected me. He's healed my heart from a lot of pain. He's got me through financial strain. He's got me through difficulties in relationships, career challenges. You have no idea how many times I've been fired. I mean, it's always for different reasons, but I don't seem to be able to keep a job. Even when I'm doing exactly what God told me to do. But God's so faithful that he's never let me down. If you're going through any kind of challenge right now, I just want to let you know he is marvelous in his works. And sometimes he lets us sit there in a problem so long that we wonder if he's even paying attention or knows that there's a problem here. But if we will faithfully keep trusting him day after day, declaring how marvelous are his works, how faithful is our God, when he sees you doing that, he says they're ready. They never gave up. They've come through the trial. They've come through the testing. And they were successful. And how many of you can talk to yourself in your living room right now. Have you seen him come through? Have you seen him perform an upside down crazy miracle on your behalf? Where in a day when that happens, you just have to sit back and go, surely God is fully in charge of everything. You might not have seen it for a while, but suddenly there he is. Good. We'll see you tomorrow. You know, it's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.lauralynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.